Could the answer to Toronto's championship puzzle be hiding in plain sight, with a grizzled veteran who brings something the Maple Leafs have been desperately missing for years? The kind of intimidating presence that makes opposing forwards think twice before entering their zone? The Toronto Maple Leafs have spent this entire offseason obsessing over one question. How do you replace offensive production when you're potentially losing a superstar like Mitch Marner? But what if they've been asking the wrong question entirely? What if the real key to playoff success isn't about adding more skill, but about fundamentally changing the identity of their blue line in a way that would make their opponents absolutely miserable to play against? Enter Radko Gudas, the 35-year-old captain of the Anaheim Ducks, who represents everything Toronto has been missing in their quest for postseason glory. This isn't just another aging defenseman looking for one last payday. This is a legitimate game-changer who could transform the entire culture of Maple Leafs hockey in ways that fancy statistics and highlight reel plays simply cannot measure. The proposed trade from analyst Cole Shelton is deceptively simple. Oliver, Ekman-Larsson, and a 2028 third-round pick for Gudas. On paper, it looks like Toronto would be downgrading their offensive capability from the back end. But anyone who understands playoff hockey knows that April and May are completely different animals than the regular season, and success in those crucial months often comes down to who can impose their will when the games matter most. Gudas brings something to the table that the Maple Leafs have been trying to find for years: legitimate intimidation factor combined with actual defensive ability. This isn't Ryan Reeves, who brings toughness but offers little else when the puck drops. This isn't some aging enforcer who can throw hands but can't handle meaningful ice time. Gudas is a player who averages over 235 hits per season, while also blocking 114 shots annually, all while logging serious minutes against top opposition. Think about what that means for a team that has consistently been pushed around in playoff series. Morgan Rielly has spent years trying to be both the offensive catalyst and defensive anchor for Toronto's blue line, often getting targeted by opposing teams who know they can wear him down physically. Pairing him with Gudas would fundamentally change that dynamic, giving Rielly the kind of protection that could unlock another level of his offensive game. The leadership aspect cannot be overlooked either. Anaheim general manager Pat Verbeek didn't make Gudas captain by accident. When he announced the decision, his reasoning was crystal clear. Radko exemplifies what it means to be a professional, how to behave on and off the ice and in the community, while being a mentor to our young group. Those aren't throwaway comments about a veteran player. That's an organization recognizing someone who can change the culture of an entire locker room. Toronto desperately needs that kind of voice. For years, they've been criticized for lacking the mental toughness required for playoff success. They've been labeled as soft, as a team that wilts under pressure when the stakes are highest. Having someone like Gudas in the room, someone who has been through the wars and knows what it takes to succeed in the postseason, could be exactly the ingredient they've been missing. The on-ice impact would be immediate and dramatic. Imagine the fear factor opposing forwards would face knowing that Gudas is patrolling the blue line, ready to deliver punishing hits to anyone who dares to enter his territory with their head down. That psychological element of playoff hockey is often underestimated, but it's absolutely crucial when series get tight and every shift matters. Craig Berub's coaching style would be perfectly suited to maximize Gudas's impact. Berube built his reputation on coaching tough physical teams that could impose their will in playoff situations. Adding a player like Gudas to his defensive core would give him exactly the type of intimidating presence that made his St. Louis Blues so successful during their championship run. The potential defensive pairings are absolutely mouth-watering from a toughness perspective. Picture this: Rielly Gudas as your top pair, with McCabe Tanev providing shutdown ability on the second pair, and Benoit Carlo bringing even more physicality on the third pair. That's a blue line that could control the pace and tempo of playoff games in ways Toronto hasn't been able to do in years. But this trade represents more than just adding another physical presence. It's about completely redefining what it means to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. For too long, this franchise has been associated with skilled players who disappear when things get tough. Adding Gudas would send a clear message that those days are over, that this organization is committed to building the kind of playoff-tested identity that championship teams require. The risk factors are real and shouldn't be ignored. Gudas is 35 years old, which means Toronto would be betting on a player whose best days might be behind him. He's also the captain in Anaheim, which means convincing him to waive any no-trade protection and leave a rebuilding situation where he's the unquestioned leader. That's not necessarily an easy sell, even for a team with championship aspirations. There's also the question of whether sacrificing Ekman-Larsson's offensive ability from the back end is worth the trade-off in physicality and leadership. OEL still has value as a puck-moving defenseman, and losing that element could put additional pressure on Riley to be the primary offensive catalyst from the blue line. But here's what makes this trade so intriguing. It addresses Toronto's biggest weakness in a way that could have cascading positive effects throughout their entire lineup. When your defensemen are consistently winning their battles and making life miserable for opposing forwards, it creates more offensive opportunities for your skill players. When your blue line is intimidating and difficult to play against, it allows your forwards to focus on creating rather than constantly looking over their shoulders. The financial aspect works beautifully for Toronto as well. Gudas carries a cap hit that wouldn't break their salary structure, and his contract situation would give them flexibility moving forward. For Anaheim, getting a younger player in Ekman-Larsson plus a draft pick makes sense for a team that's clearly in rebuilding mode and might be better served developing younger players rather than relying on a 35-year-old captain. This isn't just about making Toronto tougher to play against, though that's certainly a major component. It's about adding a player whose entire career has been built on the kind of playoff hockey mentality that wins championships. Gudas has 198 points in 829 NHL games, which proves he's not just a one-dimensional player. He can contribute offensively, when needed, while never losing sight of his primary responsibility, making life absolutely miserable for anyone who dares to challenge him. The psychological impact on Toronto's young players could be transformative. Having someone like Gudas in the locker room, someone who has succeeded at the highest levels and knows what it takes to win when everything is on the line, could be exactly what players like Austin Matthews and William Nylander need to take their playoff performances to the next level. Brad Treliving has to be considering moves exactly like this one. The traditional approach of trying to match skill with skill hasn't worked for Toronto in the playoffs. Maybe it's time to try a different approach, one that prioritizes character, leadership, and the kind of intimidating presence that makes opposing teams uncomfortable from the moment they step on the ice. What's your take on this potential game changer? Would adding Gudas's grit and leadership be exactly what Toronto needs to finally break through in the playoffs, or are they better off sticking with their current approach? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like button if you're ready to see the Maple Leafs embrace a completely different kind of hockey identity.